Thank you very much, Professor Alatas. As just a little summary, basically, Dr. Alatas has described the negative perception of Shias in Malaysia. Basically, a political one as well as an ignorant one of not understanding Islamic history, the history of the Muslims, why the division happened, the politics behind it, and the inability and the conscious decision not to want to understand each other. We will have the opportunity to ask questions of all the speakers. I will open now the discussion to the floor. Each of you, please make your questions very short, sweet. Your comments are allowed, permitted, but please don't give a long speech as well. There is also the use of Slido, which the MC had explained earlier. So I will take about 3 questions per time. Please, I've opened the floor.
Nama saya Muhammad Saleh bin Yahya dari Pulau Pinang. Jadi saya hari ini saya belajar satu istilah baru yang dikemukakan oleh penceramah tadi, iaitu jadung, jahat, bodoh dan sombong. Dan sebelum ini saya pernah mengikuti satu syarahan Syed Najib Al-Atas. Dia mengatakan ada 3 penyebab bencana kepada umat Islam ini, terutama di kalangan pemimpin. Pertama, kehilangan adab. Yang kedua, kekeliruan tentang ilmu. Dan yang ketiga, kelahiran ataupun kemunculan para pemimpin palsu dalam segala lapangan. Jadi pada penilaian tuan-tuan yang saya anggap sebagai jauhari yang mengenal maknikam, adakah masalah ini berkurang ataupun bertambah? Pada saya, masalah ini semakin bertambah, terutama daripada pembentangan yang dibuat, iaitu terdapat percanggahan di antara Sunni dan Syiah disebabkan oleh 3 perkara yang telah disebutkan tadi. Kemudian, harapan kita kepada kebangkitan umat Islam kembali, apabila kita melihat umat Islam hari ini berada dalam permainan ataupun percaturan kuasa-kuasa besar, kita menyerahkan kepada takdir. Kita kata, kita tak boleh nak buat apa. Dan kita serahkan satu harapan, iaitu masalah umat Islam hanya boleh diatasi dengan lahirnya Imam Mahdi. Saya ingin tanya kepada tuan, daripada mana munculnya fahaman ini? Adakah daripada kalangan Syiah ataupun dari mana-mana fahaman? Sebab cenderung kepada masalah ini, iaitu Imam Mahdi ini akan lahir daripada jurai keturunan Hasan dan Husin. Saya minta sedikit pencerahan dan penjelasan.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Saya Cik Zul dari Shah Alam. Soalan saya simple saja. Perlembagaan Malaysia artikel 11 menyentuh tentang kebebasan agama. Di soalan saya, sejauh mana perlembagaan ini dapat menjustifikasikan kebebasan beragama? Okay. Dan kedua, soalan saya, selepas forum ini ke mana akan dibawa untuk membicarakan tentang matlamat forum hari ini, iaitu Voice of Unity and Harmony. Maknanya selepasnya apakah ada tindakan-tindakan susulan ataupun program-program susulan yang dapat mendidik masyarakat Malaysia agar menjadi bersatu dan harmoni.
Terima kasih.
Nama saya Hasan Talib. Saya ada 3 soalan. Soalan pertama, perlukah kerajaan mengharamkan parti-parti politik menggunakan nama Islam? Nombor 2, perlukah agama dipisahkan daripada sekolah? Yang ketiga, perlukah diadakan semula sistem pelajaran macam tahun 60-an? Sekian, terima kasih.
Ya, soalan yang pertama tadi lebih merupakan komen, ya, kalau saya tak salah. Saudara merujuk kepada masalah kepimpinan palsu dan kehilangan adab, dan mengatakan bahawa masalah semakin bertambah. Saya setuju masalah ini semakin bertambah, dan walaupun kita dapati bahawa di banyak negara Islam di dunia ini masalah ujaran kebencian dan pemikiran anti Syiah menjelma, tetapi apa yang membezakan Malaysia daripada negeri yang lain, kita boleh bandingkan Malaysia dengan Indonesia. Ya. Di Indonesia, walaupun ada juga ujaran kebencian terhadap menentang Syiah, tapi satu perbezaan yang amat penting adalah bahawa di Indonesia secara hukum, Syiah adalah bebas untuk wujud, untuk mengamalkan ibadat mereka, dan untuk mendirikan institusi pendidikan, universiti dan sebagainya. Mereka adalah bebas dan dibela oleh sistem kerajaan. Jadi masalah di Malaysia adalah bahawa walaupun kita dapati ulama yang jadung, yang jahat di seluruh dunia, tapi masalahnya di Malaysia, sistem keagamaan kita dikuasai oleh ulama-ulama yang tidak progresif. Ini yang jadi masalah. Ya. Jadi kita nak tahu apa caranya untuk mengatasi masalah ini. Dan saya rasa satu cara adalah untuk rakyat Malaysia bangun dan menentang dengan menunjukkan bahawa mereka tidak setuju dengan apa yang sedang berlaku di Malaysia.
Bagi mengukuhkan pendapat yang disuarakan oleh Profesor Syed Farid, saya bersetuju bahawa masalahnya iaitu masalah kekeliruan dari segi ilmu pengetahuan dan juga masalah kemunculan pemimpin-pemimpin yang palsu, dan arti kata pemimpin yang sebenarnya tidak layak untuk menjadi pemimpin tetapi menonjolkan diri mereka sebagai pemimpin, ini berlarutan, malah semakin lebih besar ini, lebih serius, ya, lebih serius. Jadi sebab itu ada sebuah hadis Rasulullah SAW yang membawa maksud bahawa dalam masyarakat ada dua kumpulan. Kalau dua kumpulan ini baik, maka akan baiklah umat. Apakah dua ini? Iaitu umara dan ulama. Jadi ini maksudnya, maknanya kalau golongan umara, golongan ini dikatakan pemimpin palsu, pemimpin yang tidak mempunyai kelayakan tapi memimpin, akan rosak masyarakat. Begitu juga kalau mereka yang bergelar para ilmuwan, ulama, tetapi sebenarnya tidak menjabarkan kebenaran, bukan kebenaran tetapi sebaliknya kepalsuan ataupun mempersoalkan kebenaran, maka masyarakat juga akan kelam kabut, masyarakat juga akan kehilangan haluan. Jadi bagaimana nak menjawab, bagaimana nak mengatasi masalah ini? Apa yang kita boleh lakukan bagi yang mempunyai kesedaran, menggunakan segala peluang yang ada, kemudahan yang ada untuk kita menyampaikan ajaran yang sebenar, ajaran Islam yang sebenar, kedudukan sebenar Islam dalam sejarah. Misalnya banyak disebut kat sini soal hubungan antara Syiah dan Sunni. Bagaimana kalau kita lihat daripada sejarah itu, sebenarnya ada kerjasama, ada kesefahaman yang jauh lebih baik daripada masa dahulu berbanding dengan sekarang. Masalahnya apakah yang berlaku dalam zaman moden ini yang menyebabkan perbezaan antara Syiah dan Sunni itu begitu menjadi begitu parah, ya? Banyak sebablah kita kena kaji, sebab di antara ini sudah diuraikan tadi oleh misalnya oleh Datuk Farouk dan juga Profesor Farid. Itu inilah ini bermakna bahawa perlu ada tindakan susulan. Mesti ada tindakan susulan, follow up bagi apa yang kita telah mulakan atau yang kita adakan hari ini mestilah diteruskan. Sebab seperti mana saya katakan tadi, ini soal ini tak boleh diselesaikan dalam satu forum. Umat seluruhnya mesti berperanan untuk membetulkan kepincangan dalam masyarakat.
There are few questions. I'll just answer briefly to all of them. Satu adalah soalan pertama tentang masalah Imam Mahdi. Adakah ia akan lahir daripada hubungan Sunni atau Syiah? Ini adalah satu soalan yang menarik kerana jawapan saya would not satisfy you atau satisfy siapa-siapa yang ada di sini. Adalah kerana saya di kalangan kelompok minoriti dalam Islam yang percaya bahawa Imam Mahdi tidak akan hadir. Imam Mahdi tidak pernah disebut di dalam Al-Quran, konsep Imam Mahdi tidak pernah ada dalam Al-Quran, dan konsep Imam Mahdi hanya ada dalam hadis. Tetapi sesiapa di sini, yang saya percaya Prof. Osman juga membaca buku Muqaddimah oleh Ibn Khaldun, di sana ada satu chapter tentang Imam Mahdi. Ibn Khaldun mengatakan bahawa kesemua hadis-hadis yang menceritakan tentang Imam Mahdi adalah dhaif. Tidak ada satu pun hadis yang sahih tentang Imam Mahdi. Dan saya reflect upon apa yang dikatakan oleh Ibn Khaldun, dan saya percaya bahawa the reason why the Muslim backwardness dalam kebanyakan orang Islam pada ketika ini adalah percaya bahawa never mind, satu hari nanti kita akan menang bila Imam Mahdi datang. Bagi saya itu adalah kind of fatalism, satu bentuk pemikiran yang menganggap bahawa kita tak apa kalau kita ditindas, kalau kita tewas, kalau kita dalam keadaan yang teruk sekalipun, kerana satu hari nanti kita akan berjaya bila Imam Mahdi datang. Kerana itu, I do not believe in that, and I'm sure many of you believe in Imam Mahdi, and that's my comment on that. Secondly, tentang soalan kedua yang saya rasakan sangat menarik, iaitu tentang Article 11 on freedom of religion. Masalah yang sekarang yang kita ada di Malaysia ini, memang freedom of religion adalah perkara yang mesti dilaksanakan oleh kerajaan yang memerintah. Dan kita dapati bahawa tidak ada masalah dalam freedom of religion bagi mana-mana penganut Kristian, Buddha, ataupun walaupun Kristian senantiasa mengatakan bahawa they have problems bila JAIS rampas Bible diorang dan sebagainya. Then we knew there are problems, there are problems. But you want me to speak English? Okay, I'll speak English. Switch back my mind. Okay, speak in English. All right. What I want to say is that the thing is that there are problems with this Article 11 under the Constitution, because when we talk about Article 11, yes, it's freedom of religion, but on the other hand, some authorities or ministers of our minister would say that the issue is not within my hand, because the issue about religious Muslim religion is under the states, is under the Sultan. So we do not have any power to do anything about that. So it's fine if, like what I have to mention this specifically, like what the Minister of Religious Affairs recently said, what was done by JAIS was according to SOP. I mean, how could a Minister of Religious Affairs, give a statement like that? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's the problem that we're facing. Okay, and thirdly is because the third by Hassan, quickly, this very quick one. Perlukah kerajaan haramkan parti politik yang berunsur Islam dan sebagainya? If you ask me, I believe in what Cak Nur says. Cak Nur is, what's his name? Nur Khalis Majid. Nur Khalis Majid in Indonesia. The late Nur Khalis Majid. He said, Islam yes, politik Islam no. Parti politik Islam no. Itu penting. Bagi saya itu penting. Karena kalau tidak, we are going nowhere. Akibat hasil at the end of it, hudud. At the end of it, the debate is on hudud. Perlukah hudud dilaksanakan, perlukah syariah dilaksanakan dan sebagainya. We are not progressing anywhere. Secondly, is perlukah religion being separated in the school system, right? If you ask me, I believe that all these religious studies or any, this what they call it, vernacular language and things like that, you can do it in the afternoon, right? If we can transform this the government schools now to be as secular as possible, I think everybody will embrace. Why we have problems with this secular school? Why would they have problems with the national schools now? It's because it has turned to become a Malay Muslim school. I was surprised that my son, he didn't want to go to school on one specific day, for example, on Maulid Nabi. Why? They were forced to wear baju Melayu and sampin and songkok, to go to school. And, this thing never happened during my days, right? During my time, everybody loves the national school. We were from Penang Free School and primary school, Westland Primary School. I was from Penang, majority of the school children were Chinese, basically. So the problem is, why, if you want to solve this issue, we really have to look deeply into this problem of trying to inculcate what we call as Islamic values, but it's more than values. When we talk about Islamic values, it's honesty, it's keeping to time, and so on and so forth, But it's not. It's more of ritual. To me, it's more of ritual. Adakan doa sebelum sembahyang, sebelum pembarisan, and all kind of things. And I think. And the third thing is about separation of politics and state. Is that the question? Oh yeah. If you ask me, I'm a proponent for that. I am part of PAGE before. I was in PAGE before. So we wanted that. We wanted the education system to go back to the old system of the English system. And I think not only that, I believe we should learn our religion in English, not in Malay. The problem why we're facing now is that we're learning our religion in Malay. And that's the issue. Yeah.
Thanks, Munira. I'll try to answer a couple of questions. One about not having political parties which use Islam or religion in their name, in their program, and so on. From a realistic perspective, it is not possible. You cannot try to do that and succeed. Why? Because in societies like ours, religion is so much a part of national life. It means a great deal to people. The moment you do that, you say, don't have, say, a party like Islam, the Islamic Party of Malaysia, because it carries the name Islam. What will happen is that sort of politics will go underground. When it goes underground, it becomes much more difficult to know what's happening. Look at the examples around you. You'll find that in Turkey, for instance, as a result of the changes that took place in the larger society, political parties emerged that were linked to Islam. Even if in their formal names, there were some adjustments that they made, but they were linked to Islam. You can't run away from that. Indonesia is another example. During the Suharto era, you didn't have political parties which explicitly committed themselves to Islam because it was not allowed by law, which is why the major movements in Indonesia that articulated Islam were actually non-political, like the Nahdlatul Ulama and the Muhammadiyah and so on. But after Suharto, they allowed it. And now you have political parties which carry the name Islam. But what is interesting is that in terms of the electorate, in all the elections that have been held since 1998, parties which are explicitly Islamic have not been able to win the majority of votes. It's always the parties that are still around, that have been around for quite a long while in Indonesia. And it's significant that even in Pakistan, though it has a different history, you will find that it's parties which are not explicitly linked to the very narrow approach to Islam that have done well. So I think if you leave it to people and you explain and you articulate your position, you listen to people and so on, in other words, you are democratic in your relationship with the people, in the end, there is a very good chance that you will triumph. This is what has to be done. And let us also not forget this, that when parties which are open, which you think should win because they seem to have a greater commitment to social justice, when they don't succeed, it is because they fail the people. Most of the time, it's because they fail the people. They become corrupt, and then you find that their support goes down. They've abused power, their support goes down. So these are the issues. I don't fear the accolades, the names that parties use as such, and I don't think that is the real issue. And likewise, you had this question about taking religion out of the curriculum, pisahkan daripada sukatan pelajaran. I don't think that will work either, because religion is something which is so important to people. You have to find some way of integrating religious studies into the school curriculum. You can do it in the morning or in the afternoon, which is something else, but ultimately, you'll have to deal with it. Now, the question that I pose to you, to my fellow panelists, is this: can we have religious education? It doesn't really matter what religion. In our context, let's say Islam. Can we have religious education where values and a vision of life, the purpose of existence, these things are much more important than mere rituals and practices? That is the real challenge. And you find that very often we fail in doing this. Even at a time when the leadership was perhaps a bit different in its approach to Islam and the atmosphere was different, you find that there were still rituals in the school system. It was not values as such, which is why you find that today in Malaysia, those who seem to be religious in the outward sense, they don't seem to have a deep commitment to integrity. I'm sure you've reflected on that. You can see what's happening in the country today. Where is that deep commitment to integrity, to honesty, to values such as being incorruptible? Why is that? That commitment is not there. So there's something wrong with our religious education, but even more important, there is something wrong with our upbringing, the way we bring up our children, with the family system. There's something wrong with the whole atmosphere in our society. And I'm not saying that there are societies which have overcome this problem. I don't think there are. They're also faced with similar challenges in different ways. But in Malaysia, the counter trend is weak. This is the real problem. The counter trend is weak. Other societies may have similar problems, but the counter trend seems to be stronger. And this is what we really have to think about, how to strengthen that counter trend. Professor Syed had suggested people standing up. That's part of it, actually. People have to speak up. Because when you're asked, for instance, how do you wake up people? And this is something which his late father was my teacher. Something that he said very often. I don't know whether the son remembers or the daughter remembers what he said. One of the things that Prof. Syed Hussein used to say is, how do you wake up people? How do you wake up people? You wake up people when the first person who wakes up starts waking up the others. So that's what you have to do. You have to wake up. It may be very lonely. You start waking up other people. That's the only way. And this is the way in which ideas spread, change takes place. It is right through history, that's how it has been. So you just have to persist, you have to persevere, and then change will take place. Thank you.
I want to also pick up on some of the comments that are made. On the issue of Islamic parties and English, of course I agree with Dr. Chandra that it's unlikely that we can evolve into a system where parties are not along religious or ethnic lines. But even if we were to to have parties that are not Islamic. Even if we were to convert our education system into English, it won't solve the problem. Because it is not a problem of labels, and it's not a problem of language. It's a problem of mentality. It's a problem of orientation. Imagine if all the Muslims in Malaysia were very proficient in English, and maybe more proficient in English than in Malay. Then they would all be very much able to understand Zakir Naik, better than they understand him now. Right? So the fact is, there is a lot of literature on Islam which is very problematic in the English language. There's a lot of very fanatical, sectarian, divisive literature in the English language, so it's not going to. So the problem is really what orientation, what mentality are we conveying to our children, to our students in the schools and the universities. And a progressive understanding of Islam or a regressive understanding of Islam can be conveyed in any language, including Malay. And also, what kind of a society do we want to become? Do we want to become a society where we are completely uprooted from our language? That means, you don't speak the Malay language because you have this mistaken assumption, this mistaken view that you cannot convey scientific ideas in the Malay language. This is a prejudice that some of the Malays themselves have, which is ridiculous. In the 16th century, philosophers such as Hamza Fansuri and then later on Nuruddin Raniri and many others were explaining very complex, abstract ideas in metaphysics and epistemology and other fields. They were doing this in the Malay language. The language develops to the extent that your brain develops, not the other way around. So don't knock the Malay language. The other question, or the issue of the Constitution guaranteeing rights. Of course, the Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, but even the Constitution the law allows for the banning of certain religious groups. If you have a certain Christian group that is founded on the idea of destroying other religions, it will not be allowed to exist. Even in the most democratic of societies, there are allowances for curtailing religious freedoms, or even restricting groups, or even banning groups, depending on the nature of those groups. That's not the issue. So the problem is that Shiites can be banned in Malaysia because they are seen and to be what do you call it? A deviant, sesat. That is the problem. And we need to change the perception. Now, it's pointless to debate with the ulama, with the ruling ulama, because they are set in their ways, and we don't know, I do not know whether they actually believe what they are saying. Put it this way, I do not know whether they are so stupid to believe what they are saying about the Shia, or they are simply jahad in saying what they are saying about the Shia. I do not know, right? I would have to sit down with them and interview them and get an idea. I'd have to do some in-depth research. But whatever it is, you can't debate with them. We have to change the next generation. We have to change public perception. Those who are, what I said, kasalafahaman, those who misunderstand, those are the people whose minds can be changed. And then the younger people whose impressions have not been perhaps too much affected. So we have to, I think, really go against the tide by re-educating people about these things. And finally, I just also want to pick up on what Dr. Farooq said about the SOPs, the standard operating procedures. I was very disappointed when the minister had said that. My feeling is that the minister himself is not anti-Shiite. My feeling is that he is somewhat open. But I wish he would have come out more in support. He would have come out against the current round of persecution of Shiites. Instead, he made it look like it was okay because they followed the standard operating procedures, which is not an argument. And also the effect that it has on Malaysians as well as the international community. Malaysia has become one of the most extremist Muslim countries in the world. We should understand that. That's why the Malays, the Sunnis, need to wake up. In the 1980s, when I was a student in the US, wherever I went, whenever I met with Muslim students from other countries, they would look up to Malaysia. They would say Malaysia is the model to follow. Because the belief in those days was that Malaysia is a religious country, people were traditional, but at the same time it was one of the fastest developing countries in the third world. So we have been able to combine religiosity with modernization. Recently, in the last 10 years or so, I'm hearing the opposite. People are saying, look at Malaysia, this is what happens when you mix religion and politics. You're going to become extremists. Malaysia is now the model to be avoided. And we have allowed this to happen over the years. And it's not going to stop at the Shiites. Believe me, it's not going to stop. Once the Shiites are done with, they're going to come after us. They're going to come after the so-called liberals. They're going to come after, they're already after the feminists. They're going to come after the Sufis. There will come a time when Sufism will be banned in Malaysia. This is a slippery slope towards extremism. When you let these penjadong take over, this is our fault. So, we really have to think seriously about how we can come together and make changes. These changes will take a long time to come about, right? It will take 1 or 2 generations, provided we start from now. If we do not start, the situation will get much worse.
Thank you. Before I permit another 2 questions, I will also need to go through a question from Slido, but also just one more point that I need to mention. The politicization of religion in this country, we should actually wake up also to the fact that we are neglecting the more important issue of our economy, of poverty. Why have we sidetracked the more real issues that are affecting all levels of Malaysian society? Instead, we are politicizing religion and race as well. But we forget what the most important issue is, which we are heading downhill, as Dr. Farida said, it's a slippery slope. And we have sidetracked the most important issues. I will take 2 more questions for now, and then 1 from Slido. Go ahead, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharul Nizam. Can I be very honest and direct with my question? Okay, I got this invitation actually from my Christian friend, not from my Muslim friend. When I invited all my Muslim, Sharul Nizam, actually I'm from Unity, so I had more interreligious kind of dialogue and stuff like that. So I got it from them. When I post to my Muslim friends to invite them to come here, at least this is my first intra-faith kind of discussion that I'm very glad to come. So the reply that I got from them was like, you don't go to this kind of liberal, kind of, G25 sees its deviant group, that kind of stuff, Of course, my answer to them is like, you don't break the ties, you just, break the ice, don't break the ties. I think because I come here, I thought it's more on the future of Ummah within yourself. How you deal with yourself, how the majority. I believe this is a majority, The Ummah in past marriage, recently, and you guys. And when I came here, it's more like Shia and Sunni kind of stuff. To me, this is very, like you said, musical, and Farid also is very correct. To me, I'm more interested on, basically we know what the probably root cause of the problem, how we tackle this problem, and how we can sustain that. Like Prof. Osman Bakar said, probably clone ourselves from these small ripples and we make it big. But I think, I talked to the narrator just now before the event start, I think we should be able to engage them. It's pointless for us to discuss here, because I think the bulk majority of people out there is basically seeing us deviant, liberal, and we shouldn't even attend or listen to you. Okay, to me, this is very, very, very profound, Yeah, I mean, to me, the religious or Sunni kind of issue, you should talk to authority. I think you have enough intellectuals and this one also is very academic or intellectual kind of discussion. You should group yourself among the intellectuals to discuss and talk to them. I think it can be passed down to the people. Basically, even Shia or Sunni, basically, they're not really practicing Shia or Sunni. This is what I believe from what I talk to them. Yeah, to me, the more pressing issue, the nearer issue is how you deal with yourself, G25, sister in Islam, you know. Are you really representing, you know, the Muslim community? Thank you.
Can you clarify the question again? How does G25 and Sisters in Islam do what?
No, because on one side we are discussing Islam, the global Islam, the Sunni and Shia. But I think the more pressing issue is within the Ummah, is the Sunni Islam in Malaysia itself. Because I don't think there is much interaction between your side and the majority of, probably the Islam of PAS and UMNO, whatnot, the majority of them. That's how things are.
Okay,
the traditional or orthodox and whatnot, yeah.
All right, thank you for the question. But the forum for today is actually a discussion on the Ummah, not within Sunnism, within Malaysia. So a portion of the discussion could revert to that. But the overall message of the forum is disunity in the Ummah. So we can discuss it in another forum as to how there are divisions within the Sunni sect itself, within Malaysia. Thank you. Next question, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nazrin. Saya ada beberapa komen lah. Pertama tentang apa yang Dr. Farouk Musa sebut tadi, bahawa isu Syiah dan Sunni bukanlah isu akidah, not a belief or not a faith issue. Tapi bagaimana pula yang kita, kalau kita bincang tentang isu antara Sunni dan Syiah, kita perlu merujuk pada sumber-sumber pada agama Islam itu sendiri, iaitu Al-Quran dan hadis, dan juga kitab-kitab daripada para ulama Sunni dan ulama Syiah. Baik, dalam Al-Quran sendiri ada banyak ayat Al-Quran yang Allah sebut bahawa Allah redha kepada para sahabat. Antaranya was-sabiqun al-awwalun minal muhajirin wal ansar radhiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Dan orang-orang yang terdahulu daripada kalangan muhajirin dan ansar, Allah meredai mereka. Mereka redha pada Allah dan Allah redha pada mereka. Baik. Tapi kita lihat pada buku-buku kalangan ulama Syiah, mereka banyak mengkafirkan para sahabat. Saya akan bawakan beberapa contoh antaranya. Jika kita lihat Imam Al-Khamaini sendiri dalam kitab At-Taharah, kitab At-Taharah tentang bersuci, kitab fiqh. This is not a faith related book, but about the ibadah or about the taharah, cleanliness. But what he said, wa amma sa'iru tawaif minan nasab bal khawarij fala dalila ala najasatihim wa in kanu ashadda azaban minal kuffar. Maksudnya, sebahagian besar daripada golongan nasaib ataupun nasaib adalah golongan ahli sunnah bagi mereka melakukan sebagai nawasib dan khawarij. Tidak ada dalil ataupun bukti tentang najisnya mereka dari segi zahir badan mereka, walaupun mereka itu dianggap ataupun dikira lebih berat azabnya daripada orang kafir. Kemudian beliau bagi contoh ka Aisyah wa Zubair wa Talhah wa Muawiyah wa ashbahuhum, seperti mana Aisyah isteri Nabi, Az-Zubair, Talhah, Muawiyah dan sebagainya. Jadi yang saya nak sebut sini adalah bahawa mereka menganggap Aisyah isteri Nabi, Az-Zubair, Talhah adalah lebih teruk azab daripada orang kafir, dan lebih bawah tulis sebut lebih.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. My question after this, I want to reveal about all of this, and I want the clarification from the panelists. And then, so how we can consider that the dispute between Sunni and Shia is not a faith related issue? So, but because they come against the Quran. Okay, so this one the first. The second one is about the Quranic verses that Prof. Syed Farid recited just now. The verses about the innama yuridullahu liyudhhiba ankum rijsa ahlal bait wa yutahhirakum tathira. this verse, the beginning of verse is وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى وَأَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتِينَا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِعْنَا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and then come the verse إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. The meaning is, and abide in your houses and do not display yourselves as was the display of the former times of ignorance, and establish prayer and give zakah and obey Allah and His Messenger. Allah intends only to remove from you the impurity of sin of people of the Prophet's household, which is Al-Bayt, and to purify you with extensive purification. These verses was addressing the wives of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the wife of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is among the Ahlul Bayt. So how come the Khomeini in his book claim Aisha, which is the wife of Prophet, as worse than the kuffar, the non-believers? And then the last comment about the Saum Ashura or puasa hari Ashura. Okay, we the Sunni we practice the Saum Ashura because of one hadith. They say qadiman Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam al-Madinah wal yahudu tasumu Ashura.
Please make your question shorter.
So, and then at the last, the Prophet said, Antum ahaqqu bi Musa minhum fasumu. Kamu semua adalah lebih berhak untuk mengagumi Musa kerana hari Ashura adalah Musa menang atas Firaun, maka puasalah. Jadi kita ahli sunnah puasa pada hari Ashura, sunnah sebab Nabi ajak untuk puasa. Tapi sebab Nabi belum lagi melihat peristiwa kematian Sayyidina Hussein yang berlaku selepas zamannya, maka kita hanya berpuasa pada hari Ashura sebab itu. The last point is, Prof. Syed Farid ada dalam kitab hadis Sunni yang sebut bahawa ayat Al-Quran atau Al-Quran tak lengkap. Saya mohon untuk berikan nas atau teks of the hadis and from which kitab from the Sunni that you refer to. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I have one question from Slido. Please bear with me. The question is, what power does the public have to change this? Meaning the conflict or the quarrels or the animosity between Sunnis and Shias. What power does the public have to change this when we are then labeled as deviant or a traitor? And what can we do when the government ignores these grounds or these real issues on the ground against Muslims and or others who do not, deviant Muslims, so-called deviant Muslims who do not share their same ideas? Okay, I will let the panelists answer the last three questions, followed by another round later.
All right, I'll just take the first question. I think some of the questions were related to Prof. Syed Farid, so I'll just answer this issue first on the Ashura, the fasting on Ashura. The thing is that, to me, how I look at it is that if you want to fast, because there's a clear hadith on that fasting on Ashura, yes, you can fast on Ashura. But what is basically being practiced by the Malays over here, especially in Kelantan and a few other states, is that they have this, what is called as bubur Ashura. You know, they start to cook and celebrate Ashura. And I think that's wrong. We shouldn't be celebrating Ashura. We can fast, yes, but we should not celebrate Ashura. Because Ashura, as what Professor Syed Farid said, is a day of mourning. We should mourn Ashura. We should mourn on the death of the grandson of the Prophet. So by making this porridge, the Ashura porridge, and making a feast out of Ashura Day is something not right. It's cultural. It has nothing to do with religion. Yeah? And I am not against Ashura fasting, and I am one who observe regularly Ashura fasting. Okay. Second, about the issue of this, what do you call, the quotations from Khomeini's work and his Kitab Tahara and so on and so forth. You see, I have not read those that Kitab Tahara. The one that I read clearly was on his what's his book on the fiqh, or the Wilayatul Faqih. Yeah, Wilayatul Faqih. On his Wilayatul Faqih. And I do not think, from my correspondence and my intimate relationship with many Shia scholars, I've never heard any of them vilify the companions of the Prophet or any wives of the Prophet, especially Aisha. And I do not know whether the one you quoted were basically a translation from a very radical-minded Wahhabi who was trying to portray that Imam Khomeini said certain things. Because I do not think that a person like Imam Khomeini would be uttering such nonsense, right? I can hardly believe that. And I would like to believe that, it was all concocted evidence by those who were against the Shia of Iran.
To answer some of those questions, I think the first issue was, the claim is that this is not an issue of Aqidah, rather it's a political issue. Now, let's be very clear, it is both. There is an issue of Aqidah, there are differences in Aqidah, there are differences in theology, there are differences in fiqh between Sunnis and Shiites. There are, and these differences have been there for centuries, from the very beginning. But the point is, and I think that's the point that has been made by all of us, especially in Dr. Chandra's presentation, that these differences have been blown out of proportion because of the geopolitical situation, because of political power and so on and so forth. But we cannot pretend that there aren't any differences. On many issues, there are differences. For example, the gentleman just now referred to the criticism of the Sahaba by among the Shiites. Now, again, please be matured about these things. Please be matured and understand. Make a distinction between common Shiites who might be rude, right? Because there are people who are rude among them, who will say bad things about the Sahaba, as opposed to the scholars who make criticisms. Now the Shiites have a different definition of Sahaba than we do, than Sunnis do. But also remember, even among the Sunni scholars, there are those who criticize some of the Sahaba. There are Sunni scholars who criticize Abu Hurairah. So don't pretend that there's this big gulf between us and the Shiites. Be honest to yourself. That's why I say, mengenali diri sendiri. Know your own tradition. The same is true when it comes to the issue of the Ahlul Bayt. That verse that I referred to about the Ahlul Bayt, the definition of the Ahlul Bayt, the Ahlul Kisa, and the related hadith of Hadith Ahlul Kisa, and also the Hadith Thaqalain, where the Prophet says that he leaves two things behind. What are the two weighty things? The Quran and his Ahlul Bayt, right? Now, this hadith is accepted both by the Shia and the Sunni. The definition of the Ahlul Bayt as referring to these five, the Prophet, Fatima, Ali, Hassan and Hussein, is also accepted both by the Sunnis and the Shia. The quote I gave you from Badi'u Zaman Said Nursi, he's a Sunni, right? And there are lots of Sunni works where this definition of the Ahlul Bayt are affected. In fact, I would say the Sunni definition of the Ahlul Bayt is closer to the Shia than the Salafi definition of the Ahlul Bayt. That also we need to realize. And this thing about Puasa Ashura, not all Sunnis fast during Ashura. Not all Sunnis agree with. There is a variety of definitions, a variety of approaches and attitude towards this Puasa Ashura. So, as I said, as Sunnis, we should know ourselves and understand the divergences among ourselves as well. But let me tell you this: I follow the Ba'alawi Tariqah, right? The Tariqah that was brought to this region by the ulama from Hadramaut. And I quoted, for example, the view of Habib Abdullah al-Haddad about Ashura, that Ashura is Yawm al-Huzn, it's a day of sadness, it's a day of mourning. And I'm following the tariqah that comes from Hadramaut, which is a Shafi'i, strictly Shafi'i tariqah. And as a Sunni, I find it offensive that we celebrate Ashura. Fasting is another thing. But to celebrate Ashura, to consider it a day of happiness, and to make up stories about it. What stories are made up about Ashura? We say that the Prophet Abraham was saved from the fire. We say that Nabi Noah's ark landed on the day of Ashura. These are what you call it, myths. These are fictitious accounts. The only thing historical that we know for sure happened on Ashura was the brutal murder of Sayyidina Hussein. And Imam Shafi'i, a Shafi'i, Sunni Imam Shafi'i, because he loved Hussein so much, he was accused of being a Rafidi. That's what a derogatory term they used to call the Shia. And Imam Shafi'i said, in the Diwan al-Shafi'i, he said, if loving the Ahlul Bayt means being a Rafidi, I'm the biggest of the Rafidis. This is Sunni tradition. So wake up, grow up, wake up. I'm telling to all Sunnis, know your own Sunni tradition, and then you will realize that you are not that different from the Shia. Now, as far as the bad things that the Shia do, the Shia themselves often understand that. They, for example, the leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, he said that it is wrong and he forbids people to insult Aisha, Sidi Aisha. It is wrong to do that, right? So know your own tradition and know what the Shias are saying themselves before you jump to conclusions. And for the rest of it, if there are irreconcilable differences, be matured and accept the differences. Throughout the centuries, Muslim, Sunnis and Shiites have been living together in the same neighborhood sometimes. In Pakistan, they've been living together for centuries. In Iraq, in Iran, they've been living together for centuries. And they've been getting married with each other for centuries. The Shiites go for Hajj. They go for Hajj. So they are Muslims. How can our religious authorities dare to not allow Sunnis and Shiites to get married to each other? Do you know that this is happening in your country? In some states in Malaysia, they prevent such marriages. They have really a lot to answer for. They have really a lot for being so wicked and jahat. That's why we cannot tolerate this anymore. All right, thank you. Oh, sorry. Sorry, this I must, because the gentleman asked about ayat Quran yang tidak lengkap, right? Now, both the Sunnis and Shias, there are some people, there is a view among Sunnis and Shias that the Quran is not complete. This is well known. Of course, I don't accept that view. But you can easily find references to such views. In one story, it is said that, it's reported by Sayyidina Omar that there were certain verses from the Quran that he heard, but they have now been lost. And in one story, they were apparently eaten by an animal. Those verses were eaten up by an animal, something like that. This is it's very strange that Muslims can actually believe that. But this is a problem that's trans-sectarian, right? Both Sunnis, you have Sunnis and Shias who believe this. And this is, very well known. Offhand, I cannot give you the references, but I can provide the references to you. But for example, this is mentioned in one of the books by Professor Quraish Shahab from Indonesia. He talks about this view among certain Sunnis that verses of the Quran are missing. But there are many other references as well.
Saya ingin membuat beberapa penegasan. Pertama, sekitar 2004 atau 2005, saya kurang pasti, ulama besar daripada kalangan Sunni dan Syiah telah bermuzakarah di Universiti Al-Azhar. Dan turut hadir situ ialah bekas menteri daripada pusat Pusat Islam, menteri di Jabatan Perdana Menteri yang sudah pun meninggal. Dia hadir itu, ya. Kerana disitulah keputusan telah dibuat bahawa dalam Islam ini ada 8 mazhab yang diiktiraf sebagai ortodoks, iaitu 4 daripada Sunni, yang kemudian daripada Syiah iaitu daripada Jafari, Zaidi dan Ibadi. Tetapi walaupun itu dijadikan sebagai peristiharan ataupun risalah Amman, tetapi keputusan itu yang cukup bererti dalam sejarah moden umat Islam tidak disebarkan. Tidak disebarkan. Sedangkan itu cukup penting untuk membantu menyelesaikan masalah perpecahan dan masalah kafir-mengkafir di kalangan umat Islam. Jadi mungkin satu perkara yang perlu didialogkan ataupun diadakan ini ya, supaya utamanya daripada pihak ahli-ahli agama membuat tindakan susulan tentang isu ini. Yang keduanya, penegasan yang kedua, ya, inilah masalah minda, kita punya mindset. Macam tadi lah saya katakan, kita yang problem tadi ialah berkenaan dengan pemikir secara uniformity. Macam mana kita tak membezakan antara uniformity dengan unity. Jadi yang kedua ni tadi yang timbul di persoalan salah seorang ni yang bertanya tadi, memanglah kalau kita nak ikutkan keadaan sekarang itu, kalau kita nak cari quotation daripada kitab-kitab yang menyokong pendirian kita, macam-macam kita boleh ini buat. Jadi sampai bila kita tidak akan menyelesaikan masalah ini, ya kita harus mengambil kira apakah pendekatan yang sebaik-baiknya untuk mengatasi masalah ini. Jadi dialog adalah yang paling baik. Dialog tidak semestinya dalam bentuk yang kita adakan saja berjadi. Bagi dialog itu dalam bentuk yang lebih tertutup, ya, yang lebih tertutup untuk tokoh-tokoh agama bincangkan dan bukan debat di kalangan ramai, tetapi mencari penyesuaian. Saya fikir itu cukup penting. Saya bernasib baik dari satu segi. Saya mempunyai 2 orang guru besar. Dua-dua Syed, bermakna dua-dua keturunan Nabi. Syed Hussein Nasar dilahirkan sebagai Daman Ja'fari. Syed Naqib al-Atas kita semua kenal, ya. Tapi saya sebut ke sini apa yang Syed Hussein Nasar saya pernah mengatakan, it is not part of the definition of shame to hate the companions of the Prophet, to the kafiran. That's not part of the definition of Shia. This is important, that statement, because we need to go back. What are the things that really are common to us, ya, yang menyatukan kita? Semuanya isu-isu pokok. Isu-isu pokok itu yang menyatukan kita. Kalau kita nak pergi pada isu-isu ranting, di situ itu banyak timbul soal khilaf. Ya, khilaf. Sudah tentu kita perbezaan itu sebahagian daripada sifat hidup beragama dalam masyarakat. Malah ada hadis mengatakan perbezaan di kalangan ulama itu satu rahmat kepada umat aku. Jadi kita harus welcome diversity, bukan uniformity, ya. Jadi tentu ada perbezaan di kalangan ulama tentang sesama sahabat dan sebagainya. Kemudian tetapi ada isu-isu yang sudah antara contoh sudah disebutkan oleh Profesor Syed Farid, ya. Apa yang setengah orang Sunni anggap sebagai kepercayaan orang Syiah sebenarnya bukan kepercayaan mereka. Jadi semuanya ini memerlukan dialog di mana kita dapat membetulkan kesilapan persepsi yang salah tentang satu sama lain, Jadi itu yang saya ingin membuat penegasan betapa pentingnya kita mengenali antara satu sama lain, mencari titik pertemuan, dan itu hanya boleh dilakukan sekiranya kita bersedia untuk mencari penyelesaian.
Before I permit Dr. Chandra to answer the last two Slido questions, there's another one which is related, and this one says, I am scared to rise up for fear they will go after me and my family. Now this question is related to the reality on the ground in Malaysia. So please, Dr. Chandra.
Could I just comment, Dr. Munira, on a couple of things connected with the Sunni-Shia dichotomy? I think it's so important to mention this when we talk about theology and all the rest of it. We should also talk about actual practice. Someone quoted Khomeini just now, but let us also remember that it was Imam Khomeini who instituted two very, very important practices amongst his country people, men and women. Number one, he was the one who asked Iranians to observe the two ends of the Prophet's birthday as a way of bringing them together, unity week, between the Sunnis and the Shias. Because you know, the Shias and the Sunnis celebrate the Prophet's birthday on different days, but it's a very short period that separates the two. So what he did was to say, celebrate both and let that unite both Sunnis and Shias. That's an example of what Khomeini did when he was the supreme leader of Iran. And the second thing he did, which is of tremendous significance, the man who instituted Al-Quds as a celebration, as a commemoration of the struggle of the Palestinians, was actually Khomeini. He made that into an international event that all Muslims, whether you're Sunni or Shia, you could observe. Again, an attempt to bring people together. And very quickly, could I also add that in the struggle of the Iraqis against British rule, it was a struggle that transcended all boundaries. Sunnis and Shias were right there at the center of that struggle. It was never an issue, because for them what was important was the dignity of the Iraqi nation. Now the question that is related to what Munira just raised about how people are afraid about doing things and about change and so on. Right through history, struggles to bring about change have faced huge obstacles. It has never been easy, not just in this country, anywhere in the world, and right through history. So even things like what happens to families, and, you know, what happens to friends in a struggle, these are things that do happen. I'm not justifying it. All that I'm saying is that is the reality. Yet one continues to struggle, and people continue to struggle. And to give us a bit of hope, let's remember that there are changes that do take place, because that's related to the other question, Munira, that someone asked, you know, about change. How does the people, how does the public bring about changes? You know? How do we address these things when you're quickly labeled deviant and all the rest of it? I want to leave aside for a while the question about changes in the realm of religion. But if you look at other types of changes, even in our own lifetime, changes have taken place. And why don't we recognize that? I'm an old man now. But when I look back at the things I've been involved in the 1978 general election, the group that I was part of at that time, Aliran, we proposed that all candidates declare their assets and liabilities. There were only 2 candidates who responded. Both have now left the world, but they responded. No one else bothered. The media didn't bother, no one bothered about this call to declare their assets and liabilities. Today, there is a law that requires members of parliament, well, hopefully it will cover both sides of the house, to declare their assets and liabilities. And this is in the course of what? About 41 years. Right? This is just one example. And if you look at the call to make the Election Commission independent, we were the first NGO in the 70s to ask for an independent election commission. Today, actually, in reality, the Election Commission is independent as a result of the changes that have taken place following the last general election. We forget these things. And even in terms of campaigning, government using state facilities, whatever one may say, the last 4 by-elections in the country, from what we know, the state has refrained from using state facilities. And every time there's been some misstep, there has been a reaction against it. So these are changes which are taking place that one must keep in mind. Yeah? And it's the same thing for other things. Parliamentary select committees. Today, it is there on paper that there are parliamentary state committees, parliamentary select committees. Yeah? And even making the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, which is a very important committee within Parliament, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee comes from the opposition, which should be the practice. And today the chairman is Dato' Noraini Ahmad from the opposition, UMNO. Of course now, they are talking a lot about these things, you see, but at one time, UMNO was totally against this. But these are proposals that civil society had made a long time ago, that the chairperson of the Parliamentary Select Committee on more open media. Yeah, so these things are happening. Changes are taking place. But religion, it's going to be tougher. I agree. It'll be quite tough to bring about some of these changes because, there is a certain emotional, psychological dimension to religion, which makes it quite difficult. Yeah? And I think politics and power have become more intertwined with religion in the last few years. It's going to be tougher. But nonetheless, I'm quite confident that change will take place, even in the realm of religion, provided we understand that struggles take time, you have to persist, you have to persevere, and eventually there'll be some change. Maybe not in our generation, but at some point there'll be changes in some of these attitudes and mentalities. Very quickly, Munira, this point about what people can do and so on, in order to bring about changes, I would like to think that that Malaysia, as long as we can adhere to 2 fundamentals, there is hope. And what are those fundamentals? We have to keep our system open. There must be space. Once that is gone, in other words, there's no space for dissent, then I think we are in deep trouble. But we have space for dissent today. We can disagree. We can express other views in various areas. It's tough sometimes, but the space for dissent is still there. We have to make sure that it is there. And number 2, whatever one may say, and here I know, just like just now, Dr. Farooq expressed a view which he knew that many would not be comfortable with. Not many people will be comfortable with what I'm about to say. That all said and done, if you look at the history of this country over the last 61 years, we have not had a terribly bad leadership. Bad leadership. We have not had. We have had much, much worse leaderships in different parts of the world. The Malaysian leadership, all said and done, for all their shortcomings, for all the mistakes they have made, and the wrongdoings that they've committed, it has been a leadership by and large which has got a certain degree of decency. It restrains itself. It doesn't do the terrible things that have happened in other places. That has been the saving grace in this country. We can criticize. We should criticize. Which is why I like the position that Tan Sri Sharif Qasim takes sometimes, because he was from inside. Now, he's on the outside, but he does say that, there is a certain record that they have. One can't run away from it. People who like the Tuanku, Tun Razak, Tun Ismail, the whole lot of them, right up to the 4th Prime Minister, is now the 7th Prime Minister, they've all shown a certain degree of restraint when it comes to. Well, the 6th Prime Minister also at a certain point. Huh? Yeah, it's an interesting question that you raised. But we are being very candid here, and I've said this before, Munira, in public. At a certain point, he had shown a bit of restraint, but I suppose sometimes we get corrupted along the way. And then one could say that maybe the 6th Prime Minister was different from the other Prime Ministers.
That is an Americanism for us. Different and interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I have a few questions regarding the Amman message that was mentioned by two of the speakers earlier. The first one is there any international body that monitors and ensure that the signatories of the Amman message comply with the 3 points in the message? Number 2, is the Amman message as legally binding as all the other treaties that Malaysia is a signatory to? Because I noticed that this message somehow is a bit very quiet. In fact, I have to admit that I myself only knew about this recently when I read in the papers. So, and if so, which agency in Malaysia is supposed to be the responsible agency in ensuring that whatever fatwas or anything that we issue are in line with the Amman message? Thank you.
Selain daripada geopolitik, bukankah politik nasional yang telah mencetuskan konflik Sunni Syiah yang terkini? Kita lihat bahawa dalam pemerintahan baru didapati bahawa bukan saja parti politik yang terlibat dalam cuba melemahkan kedudukan pakatan kerajaan pakatan. Jadi kita nampak bahawa raja-raja dan juga yang terasa diri tercabar dan juga Jais yang memang dicabar ataupun dikatakan merasa diri kedudukan diri terjejas telah mungkin mengambil tindakan yang telah mencetuskan satu tindakan yang cukup keras terhadap orang Syiah di Malaysia. Kerana kalau kita lihat negeri Selangor dan negeri Johor yang dinampakkan terdapat tindakan tersebut pada orang Syiah. So my question is, should we not be addressing the fact that the politicizing of the monarchy, the rajas, as well as executive agencies of the government, should we not be addressing this issue actually in finding a solution to this conflict? Secondly, should we not be concerned that other than the obvious erosion of the fundamental freedom to religion, should we not be addressing the challenge that is being made to our federal constitution today? If we are not careful, we are fighting battles without seeing the war.
I'm sorry, up here we did not get the last part of this current question.
Okay, should we not
about
be
the
concerned
constitution?
about the federal constitution being eroded? Because that is the war that should be fought, not the little battle about Sunni Shia conflict. In solving the issue of how should we protect the constitution, we will also solve the question of the issue of the Sunni Shia conflict. We see that not only the monarchy, we also see even the judiciary is helping to erode the position of the constitution. A recent decision about artificial CIS case, where it was said that they could lift the veil of incorporation to see who were the Muslims behind the corporate veil. Now this is...
okay, excuse me. So you are actually, the question you are referring to is the notion of the freedom to practice religion, and that is being eroded, and the involvement of the monarchy, it's not clear.
You're referring to the second question?
Yes, please
Okay, I'll try to simplify
clarify
that.
and make it
Should we not
short.
be addressing the bigger issue that the Constitution, the federal Constitution is being eroded slowly but surely, and if we focus on the erosion of fundamental liberties, we are ignoring the bigger battle that has to be fought. We're ignoring the war that has to be fought in protecting the Constitution, which is even not safe from the custodians of the Constitution, i.e. the judiciary.
Assalamualaikum. Our honorable panelists. I am Azhari. My name is Azhari Muhammad Ali from IIUM. Saya nak tanya beberapa soalan. Bukan soalan, maaf ya.
Bukan soalan?
Bukan soalan.
Komen.
Bukan soalan, minta komen. Apa yang saya tahu ialah mengikut buku-buku yang saya baca, Islam ini telah berlaku confusion in the source. Campur aduk dalam masalah sumber agama Tuhan. Ya. Yeah. So saya nak minta komen bahawa sekarang ini kita tak bezakan di antara Al-Quran dan sejarah yang ditulis oleh manusia. Yani kita menganggap seolah manusia ini hebat dan kehebatan manusia itu hanya apabila kita compare di antara manusia saja. Kalau kita compare manusia kepada Tuhan, kita masih lagi jauh, sangat jauh. Maka dengan itu sepatutnya the source of God religion refer to God religion only, which is Al-Quran. Apabila kita masukkan sejarah yang ditulis oleh manusia yang mana dia sense tu sangat limited, ya, penglihatan kita limited, pendengaran kita limited, semua limited, maka dengan itu kita telah mix. Apabila mix, pandangan manusia yang menjadi agama Tuhan, bukan lagi kitab Tuhan ataupun wahyu Tuhan yang menjadi agama Tuhan.
So is your question supposed to be,
okay.
Should we do away with the study of history completely because that will confuse the understanding of religion?
Yes. Secondly,
I see. Okay, next question.
One more. Okay? One more. Secondly is, orang Islam sendiri change the term of the Quran. Yani the Quran, it mean different, but orang lain ini dia faham lain. Sebagai contoh, satu saja, saya minta kamu. Sebagai contoh, perkataan Muslim in the Quran. Muslim in the Quran ada two relationship. Satu hablum minan nas, hubungan dengan manusia. Satu lagi hablum minallah, hubungan dengan Tuhan. Muslim dalam hubungan dengan sesama manusia ini.
Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off, but can you please round up your analysis into a one-line question?
Yeah, Muslim dalam Quran, dalam konteks manusia, dia bermakna peaceful person.
Okay, and the question is?
No, I just want the comment.
I see. Okay.
The second is Islam in relation to God is submission to God.
Assalamualaikum. 1.5 minutes only. My question is that actually from Prof. Chandramanti, that Imam Khomeini did a lot to unite Shia and Sunni. Looks like the question is answered that the forum is only for Shia and Sunni. I go bit for more. The base of foundation of Imam Khomeini was a sociologist. Many people rarely address that. Professor Ali Shariati. Imam Khomeini's base was an intellectual. My question is that, and Imam Ali Shariati did for against the colonialism, against the Christian superiority, and Imam Khomeini was his trigger. We know Imam Khomeini, but rarely we know Ali Shariati. My question is that, what we intellectual people did and are doing and will be doing to unite the Muslim Ummah and make harmonize the Muslim Ummah? Simple that.
Sorry, I will permit the speakers on the panel to answer, please. Thank you.
What was the last question? Can you repeat properly and clearly? I couldn't get a question basically. Just in simple one sentence. Can you? Yeah, can you use the thing?
What is the role of intellectuals to unite the Muslim Ummah and harmonize the Muslim Ummah? What is the role of scholarship or intellectual people?
Role, R-O-L-E.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll take this question by Mr. Azhari, Dr. Azhari, the UIA lecturer. You're talking about why we're taking, all these kind of sources from here and there, from history and this and that, and we should take only from one source, from the Quran, right? That's what you're saying. Yeah. So the thing is that, you see, Syed Qutb in his book, Ma'alim fi Tariq, his most important book, he mentioned about the same thing. That, we should put everything else as secondary, but we should go back to the primary source, which is the Quran. But there's one problem. There's one problem. Imam Ali, when he was confronted by this Khawarij, by those who were against him during his time. So when he was confronted with them, and he called them, and he said, okay, bring out the Quran. They put out the Quran in front of him. This was narrated by Imam Ash-Shawkani, okay? They put the Quran in front of him. Then he drew his sword, and he put his sword over the Quran, and he said, speak to the Quran. And these Khawarij were saying, why were you asking this Quran to speak? It's just, the pieces of papers with ink written on it. And he said, that's my aim. Because the Quran doesn't speak on its own. It's we, the people, who give meaning to the Quran. Right? So how we interpret in the Quran is according to different way of thinking of different people. So you cannot say that simply by going back to the Quran, everyone will be united. Can't be. It's as simple as that. So I do not think that, it's good as a rhetoric. It's good to say that, okay, come back to the Quran or come back to the Sunnah and things like that. But the interpretation still depends on us. Still depends on the Muslims. That's what was showed by Imam Ali, right? Why they were against him? Why didn't they go to the Quran? Because the Quran cannot speak. It was them who gave the meaning to the Quran. And that was why they were against him. Oh yeah, and this is very interesting about the Amman Message. Is it obligatory, legally binding, and which agency should be responsible? Actually, it is not a legally binding document, right? It was basically initially initiated by the King of Jordan when he sent out this the 3 questions to the scholars, and all the scholars agreed to a few things. Among the 3 things that they agreed upon were basically recognize the 8 different mazahib in Islam, right? The Shafi'i, the Maliki, the Hanbali, the Hanafi among the Sunnis, then among the Shia, the Ja'fari and the Zaidi among the Shia, Zaidi in Yemen, in Ja'fari in Iran, and the Ibadi in Oman, that the one I told you just now, and last one is the Zahiri. I don't know whether Zahiri exists anymore now, but these are the 8 schools. And based on that definition, they forbid takfir. Meaning to say, we cannot accuse other sects to be kafir. We cannot say Shia is a kafir. They are among these 8 denominations in the Amman Message. So that's why it's very important. And thirdly, not everyone can issue a fatwa, but and they should not try to issue fatwa. They would expose their ignorant and illegitimate edicts in the name of Islam. Meaning to say, by quoting certain words that Imam Khomeini had mentioned in certain books and something like that, they say, oh, they're kafir, because they tried to demonize the Sahaba, they tried to demonize the wives of the Prophet and things like that. I do not think that that's true. That's right. Right. we are in no way to issue a verdict to say that they are kafir. Right. Yeah.
I'd just like to address the question that was commented by Dr. Farouk. The question about this, basically, to go back to the Quran as the sole source of knowledge, and not to recognize, not to accept the other sources. This is kind of going a kind of for a simplistic, sorry to say, simplistic solution to human problems. Well, can Islam exist without interpretations of the Quran? It cannot exist. Islam and the Quran is to be interpreted. Of course, the best interpreter is the Quran itself. The second best interpreter is the Prophet. What about the role recognized by our religion? The role of ijtihad, the role of the intellect, of reason, as long as it's not contrary to the Quran and the Hadith. That's how civilization is built. Otherwise, we're going for a very simplistic solution, inviting Muslims, let's cut off, let's forget all history. We cut off 1,000, we erase 1,000 from the years of history to go back to the Quran and try to build up again. I don't think that will happen. Yeah? So the important thing is we go by tradition. What is good? That is going to be part of the tradition. What is not is bad. That's going to be eradicated from our treasury, from our thinking. Yeah? So I think it is what important for us is by all means interpret the Quran, write things about Islam and so on. To me, the solution that you propose, will only undermine our respect for knowledge, our respect. That's not going to happen. Yeah? Why are we having lesser respect for knowledge? When that kind of thinking is spreading, and I'm saying that there are quite, the number of people who share that, I'm not saying though, but I know there are because you're asking us to comment on what you observe. What you observe is not good for the Ummah. It's going to be destructive to the Ummah. Yeah? So I just want to comment on that.
Just a few comments on some of the questions. The Amman Message is not binding. It was a terrific attempt by the leading politicians, rulers of various countries, and also the religious leaders, in many cases muftis or other religious authorities, who came to this conclusion about the content, the contents of the Amman Message. Now the unfortunate thing is that many countries, including Malaysia, have not taken the Amman Message seriously, right? They signed it, but they have, in the case of many of the religious leaders in this country, they have willfully ignored it. One person, one religious leader, I won't mention him, was even so ridiculous when I asked him, because he's one of the campaigners against Shiism. I asked him, why do you do this against the Shiites when it is said in the Amman Message that the Shiites are part of Islam? Then he said, oh, that's different. The Amman Message talks about the Ja'faris, whereas we are against the Ithna Asharis. So it's an example of the kebodohan I was telling you about. It really exists. I mean, everybody knows, or should know, that the Ithna Asharis and the Ja'faris are one and the same people. The only thing is the Ja'fari refers to the jurisprudence aspect, and the Ithna Ashari or the Imami refers to the Aqidah aspect. You can put it that way, but they are the same. Now, unfortunately, the people who had come up with the Amman message themselves do not seem to continue to champion its cause. I feel this is the situation. I think they've moved on to other things. I myself personally contacted Prince Ghazi of Jordan about 2 years ago to invite him to Malaysia to participate in a conference where he would address the whole idea of renewing the Amman message. But it was impossible to get him to come. His schedule was, he's busy for the next, he was busy for the next year and a half. There was no time for him to come. So I'm not really sure to what extent the Amman message is a priority, even among those who have, had promulgated it. So that's one issue. Now the other issue is, I think it was rightly stated by the lady from Sarawak that there's also local politics. Definitely that's the case. The Shiites are such a small community in Malaysia, but one would think by looking at the the degree of persecution, and also I'd like to say, let's, as they say, call a spade a spade. It is persecution. We are persecuting our religious minority, the Shiites. They are persecuted. When people are not allowed to, in the privacy of their own homes, to practice their rituals, and their place of worship or their homes are raided, that is persecution. Do we as Malaysians want to be living in a country where this is happening to fellow Malaysians? We have to ask ourselves that, right? Now, this persecution is happening not only because of the geopolitical context, but also because within Malaysian politics, Malaysian politics is about Malay politics. Malay politics is about, what do you say, memperjuangkan bangsa ketuanan or bangsa Melayu. So, memperjuangkan bangsa Melayu means to memperjuangkan Islam. And memperjuangkan Islam means to memperjuangkan Sunni Islam, which means to go against it means many things, among them going against the Shiites. So that definitely is part of the problem. But we know the problems. The thing is what to do. So getting to the question of the role of intellectuals. Now, to me, the role of intellectuals is to, first of all, critique the situation, to expose the situation, to instill in the Malaysian public the idea that there is this persecution going on. And it's something very new. The public should know that in the 1980s, fatwa was passed stating that the Shiites are part of Islam. In the 1980s. Then suddenly in the 1990s onwards, a series of fatwas reversed that view. Why does that happen? What happened to the ulama? Did they suddenly change their minds? Is it possible that for 1,400 years, Shiites are part of Islam, and suddenly in 1990s onwards, they are not part of Islam anymore, or they are suddenly declared to be sesat? What happened? People should know. Further, it's part of our responsibility as intellectuals, and using the Shia issue as an example, to show the misunderstandings, the wrong interpretation, and even the evil that goes into the, what's memutar belitkan? Manipulation, distortion of our understanding of what Shiism is about. So we have that responsibility. But even beyond that, in the hadith, says to people that you change things by if you can change things by the hand, that means physically, bilyad, physically, do so. If you cannot physically change them, at least change bil-lisan, by your tongue, right? Verbally. And if you are in a situation where you cannot even do that, at least change it in your heart, bil-qalb. So in Malaysia, fortunately, we live in a country where it's still possible to change things by hand, like we did in the elections, right? And to use our tongue to voice out opposition and to change things with them. So we should be doing that. We should be bringing people together, groups together, to engage, as Professor Osman had suggested, in different types of dialogue with different groups, whether it's Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, and of course in the case of intra-Muslim issues, the Shiites. And finally, to put pressure on our government to do the right thing. And I think the monarchy has been left out. I think we need to encourage our monarchy to play a very positive role in all these issues. Because it is the monarchy that has direct authority over the religious authorities. It is the monarchy that can see to it that we have progressive muftis put in position and that progressive laws, progressive fatwas are passed. So I think we also need to play a role in terms of encouraging our monarchy to play a positive role.
Before I pass it over to you, Dr. Chandra, picking up on what Dr. Farid has just said, a problem that we're facing currently in post-GE14 Malaysia is the amazing increase in the impatience of our society. And then that in turn translates into a sort of apathy towards change that is badly needed. So the role of the intellectual, as well as academic, civil society, other groups of the public, should be to keep moving on, to keep talking about it. I see comments in social media about academics again, Syok Sendiri, talking non-stop. Well, I mean, give academic exercise a chance, because so little of that happens in this country, because we're unable to analyze and get to the bottom of basic problems that are facing us. On that note, let me give the last word to Dr. Chandra.
Thank you very much, Munira, and I think the comments from Dr. Syed Farid and the others have been very, very useful. And I don't have very much to add. Just two quick points that I want to make. When you ponder upon what has been happening vis-a-vis Shiism in this country, that's our main concern today, this morning. I suppose it has a lot to do with the rise of religious consciousness in the country, of the wrong kind. This is what we have witnessed over the last 30, 40 years. Religion has become more and more significant, especially among Muslims. But it is of the wrong kind. It is of the wrong kind partly because of the whole history of the understanding of Islam in this country. Attempts to develop counter-narratives have not been successful. So this dominant, wrong way of looking at Islam, rituals, symbols, forms, but at the same time, I think a notion of Islam which is somehow interfaced with ethnic identity. See, this is very important as a point, seldom discussed openly. But that interface between religion and ethnic identity is an important factor in explaining the way in which Islam has evolved. Why? Because there are issues which, for Muslims in other settings, including our neighbor, Indonesia, those issues may not be important to them because the Muslim majority feels more confident. It doesn't have the same degree of insecurity. Okay? Compared to Muslims in Malaysia, I think there's a greater sense of insecurity linked to identity. And the identity factor is a complex issue in Malaysia. We have to deal with that in dealing with this challenge. Yeah? Now, as Islam has become more significant, linked to identity, we are now in a situation where notions about Islam, the thing about Shiism being part of it, they become more prominent. And this is the reason why it has impacted upon society as a whole. We have talked about solutions. And I agree with the point which Farid made just now about the monarchy. We have to address some of these issues to the monarchy too. But let me also highlight one other point very, very quickly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was wondering, yeah. Sorry, if I can have your attention, we'll just finish up this last point. I think it is also very important to make use of all the new media channels that are available. We don't have to think of our traditional, conventional channels anymore. We can make use of WhatsApp and Facebook and all the other channels to spread this alternative consciousness. Like some of the things that all of us learned, myself included, from this morning's session. These are things we can share with other people. If all of us can do that, I think that would be a good start. Because someone did ask, what do you do after this event? I think these are things that we should do. We should see it as a sort of a habit. We absorb something new, and even if we are not certain, we can always check with other sources, write about it, speak about it, spread this sort of awareness. I think that is very, very important, especially at a time when you find that not a single media channel that I know, especially in Bahasa, has taken up this issue, the question of how we treat the Shias. It has not taken this up as its major challenge, where it says, look, I'm going to focus upon this, because we have tried talking to a couple of Bahasa media channels. They don't want to, because somehow there is this uneasiness. That is the feeling amongst a lot of them. They are uneasy. Thank you.
Would like to thank all the speakers. Thank you very much. It has been very interesting. And I must apologize that we have gone over almost 3/4 of an hour, but that is also a positive development because it means it was interesting. Thank you.